G'day folks, welcome back to Stuff and Such. Today I want to talk to you, if I could only have 3 different chamberings in all my guns, what 3 would I have to pick? So let's get into that. First off, I would pick is the 22 long rifle. It's probably the most popular, most shot cartridge in maybe the world. I don't know about that for sure. But as you can see, that's a 22 long rifle. They come in 22 shorts and other stuff, but most popular is the 22 long rifle. Now the real benefits about this 22 long rifle is that it's certainly light, it's quiet, so when you're wanting to quietly dispatch something that doesn't require a lot of noise, such as like a squirrel in your bird feeder, or a weasel in your chicken coop, or a skunk in your backyard, or a rabbit when you're hunting out in the field, or whatever the case may be. It's nice that it's just a nice little snap, and it's not a great big boom and scares all the other game and all that good stuff. Nice thing about it is it's light. So in this box here, actually don't all fall out. There's that, I don't know what it weighs, maybe can't imagine it's more than a pound. Maybe half a pound. It's pretty light. But anyways, in this little box, as probably a lot of you know, is 50 rounds. And if a person was conservative and realized that, okay, we need to be conservative because whatever happened in the world, and like 50 rounds would go quite a ways. Let's say you bought a pack of 500 and you use 2 or 3 a day on average. Well, you're good for like most of a year. Not quite, obviously, but you'd be over a year because we'll be discussing the other 2 chamberings. Another nice thing about them is the 22 long rifle. It's been around forever, and that means there's piles of cheap used ones available that are of good quality. There's a lot of junk out there too, so be careful. One other nice thing about them is they're a wonderful training aid for both young shooters or new shooters, and they're also a wonderful training aid just to keep yourself sharp, to keep your trigger, your breathing, your eye-hand coordination. All that is just a nice, cheap training tool that you can have at your disposal. What else do we got on the list over here? Another nice thing about the 22 long rifle is there's a lot of accuracy potential. Now, these ones I brought with me, unfortunately, are fairly cheap rounds. They're Winchester and Remington. I've never had overly wonderful luck with them. However, we went through a period there where it was challenging to get stuff and things went crazy in price, so this is what I have. Ideally, in the past, I've had the best success with CCI, and my groups were probably a third of what this stuff gives. But when you're in mostly hunting or dispatching situations, you don't need that crazy accuracy, but it's nice knowing its potential that you can get if you want. Last time I looked for those CCIs, it was about $140 for 500, which gets to be fairly expensive, and you might as well be using something else, in my opinion. So, must-haves on what I would say when looking for a 22 rifle, if you can only have one rifle. If you can have several, well, then you can broaden things up a bit. But if you can only have one, the first thing I would say is it needs to be accurate. If it's not accurate, a 22 long rifle is borderline useless. If you miss, you're missing, and if you're missing the critical parts where you need to hit, and it's hitting around, those aren't dispatching kills, and it's not really ethical or useful. You might as well totally change your chambering to something else that is more useful, such as a shotgun for those big area hits and stuff like that. Another thing I really like in a 22 is I prefer it to be repeating. Single shots have their place. They're cute and fun and all that good stuff, but I prefer to have that second and third shot available quickly, just in case something happens. You hit a twig, you didn't hit exactly, but you stunned an animal, you have those quick shots where you can just follow right up one right after another and finish your job. Ideally that doesn't happen, but life isn't ideal. That's why we only have 3 chamberings to choose from. Another thing is you need it to be reliable, and that's why I would say avoid semi-automatics, in my personal opinion. I find they are a little prone to dirty up, especially with the cheap ammunition that uses cheap powder. It makes kind of dirty smoke, and when that happens, it uses the gases to cycle the action, and it gets dirtier and dirtier and dirtier. So then when things get cold, especially cold, that's where the problems really show up, such as like you're hunting rabbits in the winter time, and then they don't have enough force to either cycle the action, or they don't have enough force to fire the little rim, that tiny little indent. I don't know if you can see it. Don't look at my face. That tiny little dent, if it doesn't have enough force to smack that hard enough, then you have misfires, but you have a click that can scare your game away. Next thing on my list, I got good trigger. It's not extremely critical for 22 rimfire, but it is certainly nice. So it's just kind of something to look for. Something that's crisp and clean will always improve your accuracy. Something that's sluggish, heavy, creeps will never benefit accuracy. It'll always make it worse. So if you can avoid stuff that creeps and is extremely heavy, try to. And lastly, on my list I prefer to use a gun with a scope. A good scope. That's, if you have a crappy scope, you might as well just go with iron sights. If I can't see the greatest anymore, I wear contacts, as you wouldn't know because it's not obvious, hopefully. But anyways, I prefer a gun with a scope. I find you can really hit those small little areas that you're aiming for more accurately, more repetitively, and that's critical when you're hunting and need to make those critical shots. The 22 long rifle, I shot a couple groups behind you. I'll grab. The 22 long rifle, now be mindful and kind that these groups aren't with high quality 22 ammunition, so this is what you can sort of expect. So the nice thing with the 22 is you can get groups like that at 25 yards. Pretty easy, which is more than enough to, like if you're aiming for a spot as small as your thumb, well, you'd hit it, which a lot of your targets that you need to hit are at that range. And then moving out to 50 yards, this group got a little open up on me for sure. Can you see it? These black targets suck. There's one right in the middle. So, whatever that is. It's about 1.5 inches. I know this gun does better with CCI. I've had some about 3/4 of an inch or less, 1/2 inch. But anyways. So that's kind of the limitations for the 22. You can reach them out to 100, 200 yards and just kind of slowly lob things, but you're starting to get into the what's the point practically. I've done it. It's fun. But that's kind of when you start getting out of the 22 long rifles ranges and then starting into the next one that's on my list, which is the glorious, most wonderfulest 223. The 223, in my experience, is a fantastic cartridge. It's got plenty of jam, a lot of quick speed, which is usually what you need to kill stuff. It flies fairly flat, so from that 50 yards to the, let's say 150 yards is all I would want. You could pretty well take a white-tailed deer easily, especially when you're a reloader. Now this one is a TTSX, which is an all copper bullet, which then I would say for sure can take deer. So that thing's scooting along 3,300 feet per second. It's flying. It's not hardly dropping. You hit that thing in the ribs, you will sail into his vitals no problem at all. But also, the one thing I really like about the 223 is that it has, if you purchase a gun, and you should, that has that accuracy potential, these things are deadly. You can easily do inch groups and less at 100 yards, which means if you felt like it or needed to, you can easily shoot animals in the head if you get good and circumstances force you to do that based on the reasons that we're only allowed 3 in the first place, three calibers in the first place. On my list of why I like the 223. 1, it's cheap. You can stock up piles of it and not have any sort of, like, it's just, you don't need to spend a pile of money to get 1,000 rounds of ammo that goes bang. Now, if you want accuracy and the very top end hunting capabilities such as this round would offer, then you need to spend either more or make it yourself, which is reloading, which we'll kind of get into at the end of the video. The nice thing about it is it's a wonderful transition caliber, from the 22 long rifle for recoil. The 22 doesn't hardly recoil at all. There's some, it goes poof. The 22 to 223, it has a little more snap, but it's not hurting you. It's a great training gun as well. So you can shoot lots of ammo. The round count on your barrel is fantastic. You can get piles of ammunition. You can shoot lots. You can learn lots. You can learn your ranges. They often fly similar to that of those big, like almost magnums, not quite, but say like they shoot similar to a 308, a bit better, but not much. Because they're such light bullets, they tail off fairly quick. One thing about the 223, if you reload, you can reload cheap, and you can get components really easy usually. There's a lot of surplus 223 brass in the form that comes from the armies, I believe. It's, I don't know what the metric is, 5.56 by something or other. But 223 is basically the same. Yeah, so that makes it a super versatile gun. You can harvest animals from too big that you probably shouldn't be going after, such as like white-tailed deer, all the way down to rabbits, porcupines, skunks, coyotes, wolves, foxes, beavers, land walking mammals called alligators, whatever. It will take pretty well everything successfully. You can, and because you can choose from your bullets, you can take everything successfully better, if that makes any sense, more efficiently, more appropriately. Looking for what you should look for in a gun that shoots the 223, in my opinion, is you want it to be accurate. That's number one. That's kind of number one on all my. I don't want anything that's not accurate. You want it to be accurate, reliable. I prefer bolts. I'll show you mine in a second. It's the ugliest gun you've ever seen, so stay tuned for that. I got two, so I brought my ugly one just for fun. It needs to be reliable, so I prefer bolts. You can open. I'll grab it. The nice. I like that beauty. The nice thing about the bolt is you can take out the bolt really easy. Now it's out. Then you can go through your barrel, clear things if you need to. You can clean them super easy with the bolt out. You don't have to worry about so much junk getting into your action. I'll tell you the story about that gun at the end. But so reliable, I prefer bolt gun. So we've got accurate bolt gun. A good trigger is now what's fundamental. If you don't have a good trigger, you can't shoot good. It's kind of, you can shoot okay, but you can't shoot to the best of your ability, because if you can't reliably know when your trigger's going on, you're never holding dead nuts. You always kind of have a small, tiny little waver, just because your chest is going in and out when you breathe a bit, and you hold your breath, and you got a little heartbeat, thump, thump. If you can know when your trigger is gonna go off, for sure, 100% of the time, you can plan that when the crosshair is in the right spot. But if your trigger's creeping, grinding, creeping, and then all of a sudden goes off, well, you've been holding your breath for half an hour, and things are not very fun. So a good trigger, you need to have a good trigger. Next thing, you need a high quality scope. If I had the option of choosing a $20 rifle and a $500 scope versus a $500 gun and a $200 scope, I would always choose the better scope over the higher end gun. I know it's just that critical time when it's dusk and when it's in like light's poor or it's raining and foggy, and it's just, there's so many opportunities where your hunts and you're ruined because you can't see. So it doesn't matter how expensive your gun is, if you can't see, you can't shoot. But having something that is reliable and won't fail on you, that is paramount. So I'm going to go ahead and send a few rounds downrange. I doubt I'll be very great today on shooting. It's a pretty chilly morning, and all I brought was a little sweater. So, got to get those excuses in beforehand, you know. This gun typically is about a 1 inch group gun. I have another one at home that shoots better, but the rate of twist isn't as good, so we're stuck with the old classic Christmas gun. Well, went and got our target back. Good thing I got my excuses in beforehand, because I'll need them. Anyways, this is 100 yards. Not the best. I don't know. It's about an 1.5 inch, 2 inch group. So not the best, but it is what it is. As we were saying, this gun that's what I've done in the past with it. An inch group. Anyways, as I was saying, this gun is about good for about 100-150 yard ranges before things start petering out in terms of hunting applications. 300 yards if you're taking like coyotes and warthogs or whatever else is out there, or in your country that weighs about 100 pounds or less, you pick. Once you get into that range, we come to our third chamber. Now that one is a little more open to interpretation. I have mine, and it probably won't be the same as everyone else's. It most likely won't. But anyways, the next one you need is a kind of a high-powered rifle. Let's put this ugly thing out of your sight and get a different one. Here. Now, coming back to my little list. So you need a high-powered rifle, and that is open to personal choice. If you're kind of in a non-survival situation and the world's gone to crap, those lists are different than what mine would be. If we're talking like whatever happened and you can't go and buy from the store and you pick whatever scenario you want to choose. And that's not what this video is about. It's kind of more fun. But anyways, if I could only have 3 chambers, and yeah, I got a little list here of stuff, so don't. I got a list of do's and don'ts. So I wouldn't want a gun that is a complete powder wasting cartridge, such as the big magnums. Almost anything that tries to go over 3,000 feet per second, you're starting to waste powder. If you look at ballistic charts and what it takes for something, say like a 260 Remington, to try and go up to say a 264 or a 26 Nosler, the amount of powder you need to stuff in there to only get like 500 more feet per second is ridiculous. So you want something that isn't wasting powder. You want something that has a high ability, like a round, how do you say that? A barrel that can take lots of rounds and not get burnt out. So it has a lot of potential to hold its accuracy because it's not a barrel burner. When you start getting into those powder wasting cartridges, you start getting into that. And those high velocities, they tend to eat barrels out. You don't want something that only has one specific chambered casing. So your cartridge needs to be, you want something that lives in a cartridge family. So like a PRC isn't really ideal. A Creedmoor isn't really ideal. What else isn't really ideal? Like a 250, 3000 isn't ideal. 257, all the Weatherbys aren't ideal. One thing you don't want to do is under purchase in your, like let's say you have your only 3. You don't want to under purchase, meaning you don't want a gun, say like my ugly Christmas gun that we just looked at and hurt our eyeballs with. We want something that will last and is accurate and reliable, and that comes with quality. Quality exposes itself over time. With a lot of things, it can be shiny when they're new, but then say like the grips start getting sticky and the plastic start getting brittle and the bluing starts to fall off and become rusty and all these things. Quality shows itself over time. So like plastic clips, not my preferred thing, but I like floor plates. I don't like magazines because magazines, you lose them really easy. So if you can find it in yourself to spend a little extra when you come to buy a rifle, you're going to have it forever, hopefully. And they never really devalue much. They'll go down when you buy them, but then the used market will always just stay increasingly going up slowly over time. So don't be afraid to spend a little more, get a quality rifle and a quality scope. On the do side of things, we want to use parent chambering, so something in like the 308 family, the 30-06 family. Those ones I think are, there's the Magnum families, but they're kind of powder wasters in my opinion. So we're kind of limiting things down now on what our list should be. We want something that's a efficient powder use, so it doesn't use piles of powder. I want my ammo to be relatively light, so if I have to carry a 500 pounds of or 500 rounds of a certain chambering, having a 20% lighter bullet makes a huge difference when you got like tons of ammunition that needs to be put somewhere or moved somewhere. So that's something to consider, because like if you have handled like a box, let's say like that's full of 45-70, it is heavy. Or even 45 Colt, little short, little hardly little pumpkin roller fart guns. They're heavy compared to a box of 223, which is that. It weighs like a quarter or less than what that would weigh. So something to consider or think about. You want to be mindful of your recoil limitations. Because we're not able to shoot lots, because we're in this situation that's unfortunate, we would like to be able to shoot as little as possible and conserve our ammunition. which means that we don't spend as much time behind a firearm, which means that we become a little more recoil sensitive, which means that our current or potential recoil sensitivity will decrease over time, and we'll be appreciative of guns that don't kick the snot out of us when it comes time to sight in our few rounds and go harvest whatever we need to go harvest. I spoke about this in the last one, but I would recommend bolt actions. You can take out your firing mechanism if you're in super duper cold stuff or dirty stuff. You can put it in your pocket. You can plug up your barrel with like a ear plug and electrical tape on the tip, and most everything will be kind of most good. When we're cleaning it, you can push all your debris out the back end. You can do this without tools. A lot of lever action semis, I keep saying semi, they tend to require severe knowledge and expertise and tooling to disassemble and clean them appropriately. Typically, if you just keep these things dry, your spring mechanisms and stuff inside your bolt stays nice and workable. Next thing, you want a high quality scope. Coming back to what we talked about in the last, we want quality as much as we can afford. This one's a Leupold VX1. It's not the highest end, but it seems to be way better than anything below it for quality. I won't diss anyone, I guess. I would recommend going to a Leupold if you could. Or Vortex. Vortex is not too bad. I don't love them as much as Leupold, but I tolerate them. So coming back to picking a cartridge, next thing I got is a couple questions you have to ask yourself. What's the largest game animal you intend to ever harvest? If it's a white-tailed deer, and that's basically all you have, or a mule deer maybe, that's significantly different. Say like if you live in somewhere that has grizzly bears or moose, or Yukon moose, elk to some degree too. I've heard they're a bit more tough than they look. So there's no sense getting bigger than you need. And next thing is, do you reload? And that's another big critical thing too. I reload, so that opens things up. I have a list here of 6, 7 that I would choose if given the choice, or rather 7 that I would stick within. We got the 243, the 708, the 308, the 260, and that's the 308 family of cartridges. So all the bodies are the same, just the neck is different, smaller bullets. And then another family we got is the 30-06 family. So we have the 270, 25-06, the 280, and the 30-06 itself. I personally, if I could only have one of them, I would choose this one, which is 7mm 08. Reason being is I find the 308 just a little bit lazy. I find it's just a little bit underpowered. However, if you're needing a little more power, the 30-06 is a nice, good option if you're into moose and stuff. But it kind of comes down to a bit of personal choice. So I would choose 708 if I had to, and we would have moose here, black bears, white-tailed deer, and I would feel comfortable harvesting a moose with a 7mm 08. I personally don't enjoy recoil, so I would scratch off all the 30 calibers. So the 308 and the 30-06, I wouldn't want them personally. The 270 is a top contender for me. Reason being is it's super popular. It's been around forever. It's got beautiful ballistics, and it comes in a family that has lots of cartridge options. So if I was in a non-reloading situation, I would probably pick the 270. It shoots flat, it's not overpowering on anything, it'll easily kill a moose, it'll definitely let a black bear and a grizzly bear know that you're not impressed with them. And yeah, so that's my little spiel. You can let me know in the comments down below if you think I'm right out to lunch, which it is almost lunchtime, so hopefully I am. And you can give your little 3 recommendations of what you'd say. One quick little one here that I'm sure will be in the comments is, why isn't there a 12 gauge? Why isn't there a 12 gauge? I had a hard time figuring out what purpose it would fill when it comes to I need to only have 3 guns. So it's not accurate. It's not small bulk. The ammunition is massive and bulky. 100 rounds is like a big case, weighs forever. I can harvest all game birds or ducks or waterfowl with the 22. We're talking like if laws are not relevant. If laws are relevant, then you can take this whole list and throw it in the garbage. But if laws aren't relevant, with the 22 or the 223, you can snip off geese, you can take ducks, take them in the field, sandhill cranes, you can take them. The shotgun, while it is able to cover a broad range of stuff, it can't really do anything great. It can't shoot 100 yards with the slugs. It can do that, but then you need to have its own ammunition, which is basically a different chambering. You can have buckshot, and it kind of does. It knocks down geese and stuff, I suppose, and the odd deer and that 50 yards, and birdshot. It just seemed like it never filled anything great. Whereas the 22 would take all care of all the rabbits, the partridge, pheasants. The 223 would take care of anything it would do at 100 yards, like no problem at all. And then the 7mm takes care of the longer range stuff. So I could be way off on that, but that's just my personal opinion. So anyways, I'm going to send 3 down range to make sure we're sort of close for deer season, and see how we go from there. Didn't like where that went off. Yeah. Alrighty. A few of those didn't feel the greatest, but that's all I can do. Alright folks, we're going to wrap up this quick video. It's been fun having a little shoot and a little chat. Glad you came along with me. Picked up my target. I'm kind of afraid to show it to you. It's not very good. But there we got her. I definitely know I pulled some of them, but you're only as good as you're good, I guess. So that's as good as I am today. Anyways, folks, I appreciate you coming along with us. We'll catch you on the next one. If you want to help support the channel, you can subscribe. That's free to the channel. If you want to thumbs up it, that's free. And leave a comment down below. Try not to be mean now. Anyways, bye for now.